Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you for everyone who's here today and joined us online as well. Listening to that last presentation, as a rock clicker, I'm very glad there's smart people out there trying to save our lives and our future children's lives and everything else. So I'm up here to talk about rocks. So I'm a professional kindergartner by trade, so hopefully I'll keep everyone entertained throughout as we go. So I've got the thingamajigger here, ready to go. All right, so Dreadnought Resources, we're a fairly young company, which I'll talk about a little bit. It's been around for about 3 years, a remake of some previous companies that have been around for a while. We're a West Australian-focused explorer. We have 3 main projects in Western Australia. Our listing asset, flagship asset up in the Kimberley, copper, gold, cobalt, silver discovery we made last year. Ground that's been off limits since 1978. Very exciting opportunity. We have some work going on up there. But with the Kimberley, there was always the need to have multiple projects going so we could have continuous news flow to keep the market informed about what we're doing and also to keep our top-notch exploration team well engaged. So we also had the Central Yilgarn project down in the goldfields, one of the largest landholders stuck between MinRes and Atlas. And lately, most recently, our big support and our big driver of our share price and our excitement today is being driven by the Mangaroon project, which was one of the last projects we've added, which we'll talk about in a second. So we have the 3 main projects. We've got a range of critical metals needed for the future, hopefully medical research and EVs and decarbonization and everything else. And we've built a team and led by our fearless leader, Paul Chapman, who's here today. So if you want to cop some abuse, I'm sure he'll be around. And we're very dedicated to exploration, and we have a track record of delivering discoveries, which I'll talk a bit more about. The last 3.5 years has been very exciting for Dreadnought. We have most recently, as most people are probably aware who have heard of us, we have these exciting rare earth discoveries in hand at Mangaroon, potentially evolving to the other half, if not larger, of Hastings Yangibana operation, Australia's next rare earth producer. And we're currently drilling and confirmed mineralization at the carbonatites, which could be the source rare earth intrusions for that entire region, which, if all that continues to come off, would make that Gascoyne region between us and Gascoyne and Lanthinian one of the largest rare earth provinces and around global significance, extremely exciting. But it's been that project we only added just over 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. This time last year, we got to our second major discovery, the Orion copper, gold, silver, and cobalt high-grade massive sulfides. That took us up to a significant market cap. And before that, we had the Metzkes and Longmoors rediscoveries going through old historical records and going back to the very beginning where we first accumulated everything. We have built our company and the market cap that we have today and our share price and our following through continuous discoveries across a number of critical metals. And each of those projects are still just at the tip of the iceberg in their infancy. So we believe that we still have a long way to go through delivering additional discoveries. We've delivered 3 this year, 4 or 5 in the last 2 years, and starting to deliver our resources commencing from this month, next month in gold, rare earths, and going into next year. So we've had a fantastic track record. We've invested $3.3 million, board and management, into the company. Over 85% of that money's gone into the ground. The last quarter, 95% of that money's gone into the ground, and that's been supported with over an announcement per week to the market. So by continuing to deliver what we should deliver as junior explorers, we also get lucky from time to time, and we are starting to have a lot of luck in delivering a number of discoveries, and we'll start underpinning those discoveries with resources to see that true value. So I'll start off with Mangaroon. That is our flagship at the moment. What we have here, November 2020, we had an opportunity to acquire a very large land holding in the Gascoyne region, and we pegged about 4,500 square kilometers of ground. We have now expanded that to, I think, we're over 5,000 square kilometers of ground now. Well, initially we went into that area up front because it had nickel and gold. Philosophically, and taking a step back for the last 10, 12, 15 years, I've wanted to explore the Gascoyne because it's extremely unloved. When we look at project generation, there is a mantra that shadow of the head frame's the best place to go. But if you look at the biggest discoveries and success stories on the ASX, your Julimars, your Gruyères, your Liontowns, and all these other Hemis, these are all new discoveries in new provinces, not near the shadow of a head frame. These are the tier 1 elephants, and that's what Dreadnought is driven to go out and discover, and we explore aggressively, and we have delivered a number of discoveries already in our very short time period. So while we initially picked up this ground for the nickel and the gold, our very smart geologists wanted to get out there and have a look at Hastings rare earths because we are next door. And lo and behold, less than a year ago, we trip over high-grade rare earth sticking out of the ground, and within a couple of months of that tenement being granted, we already had our POWs and approvals in place, and we delivered that first discovery in June this year. Our second discovery a month after that, after completing a resource drill out on that first discovery. We've made another discovery since then, and we just announced in hand, we believe to be our carbonatite discoveries as the source intrusion of the area, all within a year of these tenements being granted. And we will not relent on that pace of exploration and delivery of results. So at Mangaroon, before we take a step back, so I get carried away sometimes, it's a very large-scale opportunity. You're looking at Hastings, those red lines, those are the ironstones that represent 30 years of mapping and research at Yangibana on the Yangibana ironstones. Now, the belief at that time was that the Lions River Fault, which is a major crustal scale structure just to the south, was the termination of that. That's never the case in exploration. It always continues across the fault. You just have to go look for it. And so all that ground was vacant. We picked that up. Yin was one of our initial discoveries there. And last year, all those ironstones and those carbonatites, we've put those on the map. We still have a long way to go in identifying lots of additional targets down there. But before we went after rare earths, because as you'll see, there's a lot of people with rare earths out there. There's a lot of rare earth potential, and we didn't want to get down the rabbit hole of pursuing rare earths if it wasn't real. And so before we even put a drill hole into this, we have one of the greatest gifts in rare earths that anyone could ask for, and that's a second mover advantage. Because of the fantastic work that Hastings has done for the past 15 years, we were able to take 80 kilos of outcrop, huff it out 2.5 kilometers to the road, take it down to ALS and put it through the exact same flotation sheet that they've developed over 15 years to show that we could produce a high quality, high NdPr monazite concentrate before we ever put a drill hole into the project. In fact, before the tenement was even granted. So we knew going into this program that we had something real, we could produce a sellable product, and so we hit it hard with the drilling. And that drilling has certainly underpinned our share price performance in the last few months. At Yin, we had the second mover advantage. Yangibana has been there for a long time, I believe 20, 30 years, Hastings for the last 15. Our first drill intercepts into Yin, we were hoping for something that was 5 to 10 meters thick. The average of the Yangibana ironstones previous to this time was 2 to 3 meters. Our first 6 holes into this all exceeded the grade and thickness that this region had ever seen. It has certainly exceeded expectations by any stretch of the imagination, getting over 30 meters at 3% rare earths. We hoped we were on to something exciting. We confirmed we were on to something exciting extremely quickly. We had always had a reputation or a mandate, a philosophy, if you will, of planning for success but budget for failure. So we knew with Yin that if it came off, we could turn this around to a resource very quickly. So we had the approvals, we had the relationships, we had the staffing in place, that if Yin turned into something, we could continue going and deliver a resource on that very quickly. And that's exactly what we did. From those first 6 drill holes, in 6 weeks' time, we had drilled out 3 kilometers of strike, framework drilling, 200-meter space lines, and then worked our way straight back down 100 meters to 50 meters around that core Yin area. And we delivered that resource drill out in 6 months. We received 84 drill holes back. We have 120. We should have those back in the next couple of weeks. ALS has promised a second instrument being fully dedicated to Dreadnought. So we should see our turnaround times improve dramatically. And we should have that last few drill holes out and then our resource out on Yin, only 3 strike kilometers of Yin by the end of this year, aiming for November. After we drilled out Yin, it was all right. We have what is potentially a core starting point of a resource, only 3 of that 16-kilometer trend. We went down to our next target, Y3, made the Y8, Y3 discovery at Sabre, discovered more rare earths sitting under a bit of cover down at Y8, multiple loads, getting up to 20 meters thickness here as well. These assays are coming. So not only do we have 3 kilometers drilled out of the 16 kilometers at Yin, we also have a few kilometers here at Sabre, a whole stretch of kilometers of strike at Y8. And again, further underscoring this is just the tip of the iceberg on the ironstone prospect potential of this region. And taking a step back, you can see Y8 to Yin, that's about 5 to 10 kilometers strike distance, and then move north about 5 to 10 kilometers, and that's where our carbonatites sit. And in the classic carbonatite model, you have these cone sheets and these ring dikes that shoot out from a central carbonatite intrusion. Those cone sheets and ring dikes tend to be enriched in rare earths. And when you look at Yangibana West, Bald Hill, Simons Find, Fraser's, Yin, Y8, all of those dip back towards forming a cone around those carbonatite intrusions. And things like Sabre and Auger are these radial dikes that are quite vertical, and those are the ring dikes that are all pointing back to C1, C5, and also C7 as potentially the source intrusions for the rare earths in this region. So it's an extremely exciting time. We've just announced our phase 1 drilling over the carbonatites, which was 2 fence lines across the guts. This was not really designed to hit mineralization. I know we're an exploration company, and that's what we're supposed to do, but these were ovoid magnetic targets under cover. We wanted to make sure that these things actually were carbonatite intrusions, and not only have we confirmed multiple pulses of carbonatite and alkali intrusions, we also hit quite thick mineralization in both fresh and oxide bedrock out there. So extremely exciting. We're now already commenced on phase 2, drilling about 2 to 3 holes a day, so we expect to see additional news flow coming out as we drill out C3, C4, C5, and then we'll move up to C1 and C2. So it's going to be extremely exciting, a lot of news flow, and with that phase 2 drilling, based on the fact that we already have mineralization in hand, we're already planning up phase 3, which will be the infill framework drilling to see what sort of potential prize that we have here after doing the wide space drilling. So we have a lot of assay results trailing behind our discovery drilling, and we have a lot of additional drilling as this program continues to evolve. We have 2 rigs on site. By March next year, we'll probably have 4 to 6. Further upside, and that's only within that red box, we have a bunch of thorium anomalies. I've been talking about these for a while. I'm a bit tired of talking about them, so I'll be up on site. Say the guys are running pretty ragged, looking after the rigs and looking after everything else that we're doing at Mangaroon and the Kimberley. So I'll be back in the field last week and this week coming up after I leave the conference here, and I'll be going out personally to chase up these other 100 thorium anomalies and look at some other ground that we have in the region. So we will have these thorium anomalies ground truth before the end of this year so that we go into next year knowing what scale of opportunity we have in hand. So that timeline, Yin, the resource drill out is complete. By the end of November, we're pushing for that resource to be put out. Once we have that resource, we can then start looking at what's next stages, scoping studies and whatnot. We also have the metallurgical test work coming out in March based on that Yin drilling, about 20 diamond holes. That program's almost completed, and then we'll be moving to the carbonatites and Sabre to do diamond drilling over there. Sabre Y8, we'll convert those to resource after we finish drilling the carbonatites. We've drilled C3, C4, already confirming mineralization, so we will start doing that target evaluation, scoping that up to see how it ranks compared to our other targets, to see which ones we prioritize for resource drilling. And in the background, we still have Y2, Y6, C7, and the Yin extensions to get in place and get ready to drill either this year or next year in the thorium anomalies. That pipeline is extremely full, showing that this could be a very significant rare earth opportunity. We also have First Quantum doing their work and some gold sitting in the background. So I'm running out of time, so I'll very quickly touch on the other project we're currently working on. That's Taraji Yampi, where we had the Orion discovery last year, 16 million tons at meters at 2.2% copper, 0.4 cobalt, silver, and gold. We identified at Orion and Grants, we had the potential for taking that into resource drilling. We meant to do that now. We identified 6 other Orion lookalikes. We see this as an Avanco-style opportunity. The mineralization is very similar to Cloncurry, Eastern Succession, and Tennant Creek. And so we see the opportunity to put together a camp of copper and cobalt-style mineralization that Western Australia hasn't seen before. We have an Auger program going on across the area, and we'll fill that pipeline. So when we finish drilling next year at Mangaroon, about halfway through, we'll take our 4 rigs up to the Kimberley, deliver discoveries up there, and resources up there as well. Thank you very much.